I Drink Your podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
Can't stop what's coming.
So, cool beans.
Cool beans.
Mixing his character and his real name. Okay.
We have fun.
How about a suicide pact?
What are you trying to be, an Irish R&B singer?
Oh, it's because he's 60 years old. 60 years old. The alcohol's working.
We need water. I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast, everyone. This is the podcast all about 2007 movies. And before we get started, let's do some housekeeping. So if you guys could go ahead and rate us on iTunes and leave a review, that helps us grow, and we appreciate that, as well as just share us with a friend that likes movies. And hit us up on social media. We love talking to y'all. So without further ado, this week we are watching the 2007 Juno, right, everybody? So joining me this week is Ben, Emily, and Wes. What are you guys drinking for Juno? Who's going first? Choo, 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 choo.
I have a screwdriver, except it's Sunny Delight instead of orange juice, just like Juno drinks at the beginning of the movie. So Sunny D and vodka, about half and half.
Is Sunny D the less fancy version of Sunny Delight?
Yeah,
So it's more. It's like less formal.
Wait, are there two orange drinks?
No. That's the same thing.
I was like, what? I mean, it could have been Tang. That would have been way better. But whatever.
The astronauts get crunk. Emily, what are you drinking?
So I'm drinking a chai tea latte, actually. But here's why. There is this place called Grey Duck. And since Juno is placed in Minnesota, I went with this Grey Duck chai tea, which is very delicious. I slurred and I'm not drunk, so yay.
Not yet.
Yum.
There's no alcohol in it. I'm still suffering from that concussion a little bit.
Wesley, what are you drinking?
Nada. I'm not feeling super good today at the time of this recording. I might have drank too much blueberry slushy last night and threw it up in a vase.
An urn.
Ooh.
An urn. They all look the same when you're looking for something to throw up into.
Why was the urn so low on the ground? Anyway, we'll get into it. Are you at least eating some orange Tic Tacs or anything, Wes?
Oh, nice.
I wish I had that right now. No, my mouth feels like weird. You know that like that sensation you get right before you throw up where your teeth sweat?
No.
You guys know about the teeth sweat?
I've never heard it described that way, but that really hits it on the nail.
Yeah, I heard that once from shout out to PDJ back in college. First time I learned that phrase, and it's stuck with me ever since. Every time I get nauseous, I'm like, oh, the teeth are sweating. It's go time.
Oof. Weird mouthfeel. Okay, so I am also drinking a Sunny Delight screwdriver. First time I've been on theme, and I've got orange Tic Tacs. So
he's in it to win it, and sunglasses.
You came prepared today.
I came prepared, minus not having one complete question done for the Battle of Twits. but besides
strategy.
that, I don't know. Like I just full on prepared to talk about this movie and to debate Ben later. So if you guys are unfamiliar with the show, the way this show works is the first half we'll be discussing and then reviewing Juno. And then the second half will feature a Battle of Twits, a creative competition between Ben and myself, inspired by questions formed from the movie. Today, we watched Juno, which was directed by Jason Reitman, featuring Ellen Page, Michael Cera, Jason Bateman, and Jennifer Garner. So, do you guys remember any songs from 2007, or what would you have put on a mixtape for somebody? Ben?
In 2007, I was in a band.
No.
And my mixtape would feature almost entirely my own music. So my band was called Prior to This. It was with some buddies of mine, Garrett Foster and Wade.
What city did you live in?
We lived in Prior Lake.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, I know, right?
And you played the tambourine, or
I played bass guitar. I was recruited to play bass in the band after they saw my Guitar Hero skills. I had never touched a bass before I was in the band, but I picked it up, and I mean, we rocked pretty hard.
I can attest to Ben's scissor kicks during live performances.
Oh, you went to go see him.
Oh, I saw them all.
friends.
I was friends with everybody in the band. Yeah.
We had many a fan.
Yeah, I think at one point I had so many prior to this CDs that I decorated the side of a dresser.
That was its only good use, I guess.
Well, I just had
Coaster
so many,
too.
and they were digital, so no, I didn't really need the hard copies anymore.
Yeah, I know. I saw prior to this concert as well. You know, I'd be back visiting, and there was a concert. I think I only went to one, but
one's all you need to just experience it.
Right. And it's like the scissor kicks. Okay, Ben, will you answer this? The scissor kicks didn't come often, but they were like special moments in the song,
Yes,
right?
yeah, they were well placed strategically for maximum effect.
Okay.
Wow.
I can't believe I forgot about prior to this.
My mind is actually blown right now.
We'll have to
really
get you
weird.
some music. Actually, just found an old hard
Probably.
drive. Maybe it's on there.
So in 2007, I actually was listening to a lot of old music because that's what I grew up on. And, I was in 8th grade. But what I probably would have put on a mixtape for someone was the classic and wonderful Soldier Boy.
You.
The swim team, and I'm not talking just my swim team, I'm talking like every swim team in Minnesota would, during warm-ups and people would be swimming and stuff, they would play music over the intercom, and one of that song would come on, and everyone would stop what they were doing, and the whole pool would just start dancing. So that's probably what I would have put on there back then. Nowadays, I look back, there's not a lot of 2007 music that I actually liked besides MGMT. So,
Oh my God, I can't believe you just
fun.
said that.
I'm sorry,
There's
guys.
not a lot of 2007.
There's not a lot that I liked, so that's okay.
We have wildly different opinions about 2007 music because I wrote an entire playlist. Most of my playlist is just this entire album, this entire album, this entire album. So this one was really hard for me because as I was thinking about it, music is so much different than movies because music to me seems to be a lot more timeless and doesn't seem to age like movies do. Probably because of like the visual component, maybe. But man, when I started looking at so what I did is ended up looking at Pitchfork's Top 100, which I was definitely an indie boy. So the soundtrack on this movie really got to me. And then looking up the Pitchfork Top 100 from 2007, I won't even bother you guys with listing them. You guys can just go to that Pitchfork Top 100 and pick and choose.
Do you have some favorites that stand out, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, LCD Sound System came out with Sound of Silver that year. Animal Collective, Fireworks is probably one of my favorite songs ever. Paper Planes by MIA. Come on, everybody loved that song.
Oh, yeah.
Muscle and Flow by Menomina. Can't Tell Me Nothing by Kanye West. You guys remember that video with Zach Galifianakis? Hilarious. Grace Kelly by Mika. What's a Girl to Do by Bats for Lashes.
I forgot. I do love Mika.
Mika's great.
Mika's my heartthrob.
I did have Time to Pretend by MGMT. But then literally the whole album, Icky Thump by the White Stripes, We Were Dead Before the Ship Even Sank by Modest Mouse. 2007 was a baller year for music.
Yeah, that was a good year. I remember going to Lollapalooza, I think in 2008 with you and Garrett.
Yeah, I was looking at this list thinking this is right around the time when we had to go to Lolla, but I couldn't remember what year.
So who's seen this movie before? Did you have any
Matt,
impressions?
Did you answer?
Oh, I don't know. I like T-Pain. T-Pain's awesome.
Coming into the show.
Let's go. Ben, you can cut that out if you want.
I've seen Juno before. We've all seen Juno before. I actually saw it with my dad. We went and rented it at the local movie DVD place. It was called Lakeside DVD Rental or something. I don't remember. It's closed now, like most of them.
Oh.
But I remember we biked down there. We got it. We watched it together. I liked it.
Wait, you biked to the DVD rental store with your father and rented Juno together?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's what we would do. A lot of times it'd be Bugs Bunny cartoons, but this day we got Juno instead.
Did you guys have any deep conversations afterwards about
we
pregnancy
didn't.
or
No, we
just left unspoken?
Just completely left it unspoken.
Well, that's what we're here for, to unpack all that baggage from
The
13 years
subconscious
ago.
is powerful. Yeah.
I remember seeing it. This was around the time when I started attempting to see every movie that was nominated for Best Picture before the Oscars happened, because I liked to feel educated on what was happening and what was nominated. I remember actually really liking this movie when it came out. The quirkiness at the time was very much in line with things I enjoyed. Now that I'm older, not going to spoil how I feel about this movie, but I have changed in the 13 years since this movie's come out.
I kind of want to know more about how you've changed, but I feel like that might be a bigger conversation. Yes, I too saw this movie. I too thought it was good. The only thing I really remember about it is that it was definitely one of the like burned DVD copies that I had in my gigantic zip up DVD case. Yeah. So it was around that time, and it made it into the case. So must have been pretty good.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys. Like, I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but I did have I had a friend. So I was living in the dorms in Japan as a airman in the Air Force, and I had a friend who would download and torrent movies, and we would watch movies together on his computer screen. So I'm pretty sure this was one of those movies, and I remembered liking it, but I guess I'm excited as well as because like viewing it as an adult is a different experience. So I think it should be interesting to see.
I'm really glad you finally got there, because I was like, what are you even saying right now? What are words, Matt?
Yeah, well, words are hard. So let's talk about this movie then. Act 1, Chapter 1. Okay, so Juno, played by Ellen Page, is a weird, fast-talking Minnesotan teen who has sex for the first time with her good friend, Polly Bleecker, played by Michael Cera. Discovering she's pregnant, she considers getting an abortion, but decides to look through the penny saver ads for a couple to adopt the baby. Juno and her father, played by J.K. Simmons, travel an hour to St. Cloud to meet with the rich prospective couple, Vanessa and Mark, played by Jennifer Garner and Jason Bateman. Mark and Juno seem to have taken an interest in one another. So that is the end. That is the end of Act 1. Words are hard.
Words are very hard for you today. So in this movie, when you go through and you kind of meet Juno for the first time, she's kind of callous. She's kind of weird and independent, and she's obviously going through some stuff. But the opening title, where it's her walking to go get another pregnancy test, what did you all think of that?
Super duper indie feels.
Yeah, that was you're talking about the scene where like that's all cartoonized.
The animated, yeah.
Yeah. I felt like that had to be early in that becoming popular, but I couldn't remember anything before it, having seen that kind of style.
Right. I was just curious why they chose to do that. To me, she's just walking. I was like, what is the motive here?
I mean, it totally cues you into the quirkiness that's to follow. Like it's showing you the tone that the movie's going to take, just even through the initial credits.
Yeah, and then it picks up in the gas station. She's carrying the Sunny D in the credits, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so actually, it's not quite animated. It is, but it turns out they just had Juno, Ellen Page, walk on a treadmill with Sunny D for like 900 shots, and they just like took pictures of her walking for 900 shots, and then they put those photos through a Xerox machine to get kind of that faded, almost drawn look to it, but they were actually just photos, which I thought was kind of cool, and they just kind of linked them together. Yeah. Somebody
really should have told them about Photoshop. Could have saved them a lot of time.
It wasn't as powerful as what we know it to be today, Wesley.
Right. And I like what you said, Ben, that it kind of showed the quirkiness of this movie. I think that's a very good word for this movie, but it also, I think, introduced the music style. Wesley, I think you're the one that loves Moldy Peaches. The band specifically, yes. Adam Green and Kimya Dawson were huge on Wesley's playlists in 2007, going to
pottery class at 8 a.m. and throwing clay on a wheel. So yeah, the quirkiness adds up. But yes, the soundtrack was amazing. I mean, after I finished, I think I listened to songs that were on the soundtrack and songs that were kind of related to this for 2 or 3 days after rewatching this movie again, because I hadn't heard some of them in so long.
Right. Because this movie basically used Kimya Dawson's style of music, and she just like sent over a bunch of tracks and said, just use all of this. So everything was done to the style of what she wrote.
She's a cool lady.
So the opening sequence leads into the first scene, which is the scene in the gas station. And right off the bat, we're hit with a script that is, I'm going to say, nonsensical in the way that it has the characters speak. It felt like I was on a different planet almost, having to listen to Rainn Wilson's gas station attendant and Juno talk to each other. Being from Minnesota and having lived here my whole life, nobody in Minnesota talks like that. So I think setting it in Minnesota specifically for me hurts this movie because it didn't feel authentic. Whereas if you had said this movie took place in Alaska, like in Juno, I'd have been like, oh yeah, that's probably how Alaskans talk. And I would have more readily accepted that.
Right. But you're in the minority because I feel like there's often that perception of Minnesotans, you know, where you meet people from New York or LA and then they're like, oh yeah, Canada's top hat, or, you know, like they basically consider you Canadian. And it's like, I feel like it is.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Canada because this was filmed in Canada, and you know a lot of the actors are Canadian, and so they were originally going to film it in Minnesota, but then they ended up doing Canada because it's cheaper, and they had some budget issues. But I felt the same way, Ben. I was sitting there and was going, "What is happening right now? What are these words being used?" Wesley, I think you wrote some of them down, and I was
just going to say I wrote down that entire exchange just because I had to see it in ink, in black and white, to go, what did I just listen to? But Ben, that's an interesting point. And one thing that I had thought throughout this movie was, sure, they mention that it's Minnesota, but other than a couple mentions of cities and snow, I really felt nothing about Minnesota in this movie. And the idea that someone might intuit that dialogue as Minnesotan never even crossed my mind. Like, I always just thought, oh, that's some weird comedy humor that they're trying to get in there by being different. But thinking that could be portrayed, or someone from somewhere else thinks that that's Minnesotan, makes me hate it so much more.
Yeah. Well, hey, It has Mankato. They dropped Mankato in there for you guys.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was a great scene. The kid in high school that hooked up with a girl in Mankato. And
no, he didn't even do anything.
75% of us went to college in Mankato for at least one semester.
No, I don't think that they really captured a Minnesota feel for sure, but I did think that the houses kind of had the old rustic Minnesota Canadian feel to them. You know, in her house, it had the cluttered but comfy feel to it. There are a lot of knit blankets and random knickknacks just laying around the house. And it wasn't that it was messy. It was just filled with a lot of stuff that had no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was like, oh, that's kind of what rural Minnesota felt like to me when I went to visit some houses. They were just strange and bizarre.
Yeah. It feels like a homely Airbnb almost.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe Minnesota. I think it's interesting you're talking about the inside feeling accurate for what did you say? Suburban,
rural.
Words are hard for me today as well. all that blue slushy. But I spent my time when they were outside, especially around houses, judging if they look like Minnesota houses. Because another thing in this movie that drove me crazy, especially after some stuff that comes up in Act 2, was trying to place where in Minnesota Juno even is. And the outside of where Juno and Bleecker live, that really does feel like a downtown Minneapolis, like not in the city, but the residential areas of downtown with like the the small yard that's right on the street. There's no fences. It kind of goes up a little hill. Like it's
trees that go over the street.
Yeah. Yeah. So they did a really good job. I think I didn't know it was shot in Canada. I thought it was shot in Minnesota. So that's why I was trying to pinpoint exactly where they were. So that's interesting.
Yeah, the reason it took place in Minnesota is because the writer of it, Diablo Cody, lived in Minnesota.
Yeah, she actually worked on the script in Crystal, Minnesota for like 7 or 8 weeks, just writing in a Starbucks Target. She would just go there for hours and
Very
write.
Minnesotan.
And yeah,
It is.
she said that Juno is actually a very personal story to her when she was writing it. Like, she didn't think it was going to be a movie ever when she was writing it. Her manager encouraged her to write a screenplay just so that he could show it to producers and see if they could, say, hey, this is the kind of thing that she writes. But she compares Juno as like an extension of herself. There are a lot of pieces of it that she borrowed from like a friend who was pregnant in high school, but she actually dated a Tic Tac loving guy in high school. She had a friend that was a cheerleader, like Leah, and that's Juno's best friend. And then she actually even owned a hamburger phone, which I think is hilarious.
Did her friend also use the penny saver to find wanting adoption parents?
She did not say that, but she did collect a lot of stories from adoptive parents and adoptees because she wanted to make it feel more realistic and feel more about the relationships.
So I know the penny saver is real, but can you just put ads in that paper for adopting babies? Like, is that just an ad that commonly runs in these local papers?
Who knows? Do you know?
I mean, Ben can speak to adding announcements that are possibly less than real.
What do you mean, Wesley?
I don't know, Ben, would you like to tell your exploits?
Sure. In college, I was living with a guy I went to high school with named Mike, and I was trying to get out of taking a final, so I wanted to see if I could submit an obituary to my local paper so that I could say someone died and I couldn't make the final. Well, there, I saw that you can make
I'm sorry, what?
He needed newspaper proof to get out of class.
I need my lies to have evidence to them.
Matt and I were just shaking our heads like, yeah, and Emily's world is being shocked right now.
But I realized you needed a death certificate to submit an obituary, which I obviously didn't have. So instead, I started looking at birth announcements, and you can submit those with no evidence whatsoever. So as a prank, I submitted a birth announcement for my roommate and his girlfriend at the time, who both were from my hometown. And this was around homecoming, and the ad ran in the paper. And when we were all back in town for homecoming, people were going up to these two and asking them about their baby because they read about it in their paper or their parents saw it.
Wow. So Act 2. So Juno and her dad just left the adopting couple's house, and during the winter, Juno visits Mark a few times, bonding over his taste in punk rock and horror films, but sees the stain of Vanessa and Mark's relationship growing. Although Mark is shying away from fatherhood, Juno's interaction at the mall with Vanessa shows how great of a mom Vanessa will be. As her pregnancy continues, Juno starts to realize her feelings for Bleecker and regrets pushing him away as she learns that he has asked another girl to prom.
I was curious about how you all felt with Juno's developing relationship with Mark. I was curious how you felt about that.
Oh,
Creeped
it makes
out.
me so uncomfortable. It flavors the entire movie poorly for me because I want to like Jason Bateman, but obviously he's the most unlikable person in any movie that I can think of.
So doesn't that make him like a really good actor?
I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I just don't like seeing a pedophile in a movie because it's just like as it developed and as, you know, I think her mom, Bren or Brenda, I think it's Bren is short for Brenda, but her mom is like, hey, you're not supposed to have a relationship with a man like that. He's married and you're 16. And she's
I don't think she even says the 16 thing.
No, she doesn't say the 16 part. Which bothered me.
Yeah.
That was
it's
the part
just-
that I was like, what?
it weirds me all out. And Jason Bateman is this likable guy, this likable actor. And he brought this warmth to this character, and then he's a pedo. So maybe that's him doing a good job, like you're pointing out, Emily. But at the same time, like, it makes me feel really creeped out.
I mean, it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, he's set up as we can debate how obvious it is that he doesn't want this child from the very first meeting, but he's, there's no reason to think that he would be a bad person. And the fact that they start relating on things that he's interested in and are forced to suppress in his marriage, like, it doesn't seem like the first step of someone who's going to hit on a 16-year-old and potentially leave their wife for their surrogate baby carrying 16-year-old. Like, it's uncomfortable for a lot of reasons, and a lot of it for me was because I felt tricked.
What do you mean by you felt tricked?
You just don't, like I said, I just didn't see it coming. I mean, and
see, that's really strange to me because I totally saw it coming, and maybe it's because I just have like feminine instincts or something. I don't know. But as soon as I watched this movie, I still remember for the first time, like, as soon as they started bonding, it was like I could tell already that either she knew what she was doing, because she's really smart. She's not stupid. She was going over there, even just like the few times she visited him, she went over there knowing that Vanessa would probably not be there. And I'm not saying like this is her fault or anything. It's just that she was encouraging the attention because she was trying to get away from Polly, and she didn't want to deal with the whole pregnancy issues. And it was easier to talk about horror and music with some grown up.
Yeah, they did cue into it a little bit, Wesley. Like, they're meeting the couple for the first time, and they sneak away to go play guitar together. She's putting on lipstick before she goes and sees Mark by himself, and they're like, "Hey, is Vanessa around?" He's like, "No, we're safe." Like, that creeped me out when he said, "No, we're safe." That was like, that's what set off my alarms.
Oh, that made me laugh, honestly, because Vanessa did seem like a killjoy. Honestly, in the beginning of the movie, they really set her up as this really restrictive person. And so honestly, it wasn't until later in that scene that I started feeling a little bit more uncomfortable with what was going on.
I'm going to take a possibly dangerous stance and try to defend Jason Bateman.
Possibly dangerous.
Jesus. Okay.
This is on the coattails of finding out that you put a birth announcement on your friends. So
okay,
this is not looking like a good episode for Ben.
This is not a good episode for Ben. So a lot of the connection he forms with Juno is about shared interests. What we don't see is, I always felt like pedophilia is more about the fact that they are young and impressionable. And that never seemed to be the driving force behind Bateman's attraction to her. It always seemed to be shared interests. And like, we only know she's 16 because we can do the math based on what year she is in high school. But does Jason Bateman know she's 16?
I mean, besides the fact that she says she's a junior, I mean,
well, yeah.
you can make
back
the assumption.
A couple years.
Right. But I think you're, guys, seriously though, I think Ben is right in the sense that it was more about the interests that drove it, and Juno was like an independent person. So I'm not saying like it was a good thing or anything, but it was at least understandable that he already had this rift between his wife, and now he has a person who is a lot more adult than she seems, than she actually is, right? And is like coming to his house to have these conversations and this escape from the reality of what he's living.
And I never got the sense that he actually wanted to act on his feelings for Juno. And I don't even know if he has feelings for Juno, because what they show is he says to her, like, I thought this is what you wanted. And I took that more as like, you kind of have the same impression of Vanessa as I do as her husband. And you feel like I'm trapped and I feel like I'm trapped. So this is kind of what you want too. Like, it didn't seem to imply that he thought he was going to be with her. Just that they kind of had the same understanding that him being married was not where he was supposed to be.
I would agree with you in Act 2, but Act 3, he definitely implies that he wants Juno.
I felt that it was definitely an implication that he wanted to be in a relationship with her, which in that I think that happens in Act 3.
Right.
But I can definitely see that he doesn't flat out say anything specific, and so it could be more of a, I don't even want to say it's like a fatherly love or just like a friendship love. But he uses his relationship with Juno, whatever we want to call it, to take the step to leave his wife because he's not happy. And to not have to get stuck with a kid when he doesn't want to be a father and isn't ready to be a father.
So just to be clear, Ben's defense of Bateman is that we're using the word pedophile wrong. Like, or do you actually?
I think partly we are applying 2020 wokeness to this, and it just may not be what was presented. Like we're talking a lot about implications and things that are implied, but nothing's ever explicitly stated. So I want to be careful throwing around that word.
I agree. I don't. There's nothing sexual about it, and especially looking at the definition of a pedophile like that. Like it doesn't seem like that. It is common interests and mutual respect.
You could make the case for it's like grooming, but I think in the script and in how Diablo Cody was writing it, it was more about the relationships between the people and not having it be sexual, like have it be this building this relationship. And then going further, it's kind of mimicking like this closeness between her and Mark, and then this separation between her and Bleecker, the father of her child. And like they get into this huge argument because she basically is pushing him away on some other girl. And then when he does ask this said girl to prom, she freaks out at him.
Right. Which it's like, hey, if you get a girl pregnant, ask her to prom,
Did anyone get someone pregnant and ask her to prom?
I mean, no, but I feel like I would have that common decency.
I know that was my promposal in high school. I got a girl pregnant, and then when she had the baby had a sign in its hands that said, "Will you go to prom with me?"
You gotta be sneaky.
It worked. Yeah, it was super sneaky.
She says
no.
That's
not true.
Oh, do you?
But for a second,
We're finding out a lot about Ben today.
I'm learning way too much about Ben today. I mean, I had a guy bring me mittens for prom once. Wrote prom on them. He made the mittens for me, biked to my house. There's a lot of biking in Duluth, guys.
So this movie's pretty accurate.
So it just said prom ? Or was the full sentence there?
No, it was prom ? And glitter glue on these mittens that he made. They were great.
Aww.
There wasn't even like a pun on it, like I'm smitten with you or anything like that.
He was a year younger than me.
Oh
he's a good
standards,
guy.
Emily. Jesus.
I need to know, did you keep the gloves?
I think they're somewhere in my old house. I think my
Did you
parents
wear
still have
the
them.
gloves?
Oh yeah, I definitely wore them. They were great. And they're mittens, not gloves. Gloves are terrible. Mittens are the best.
All right, let's move on, guys. I feel like there's quite a bit to still unpack here. So at the end of her pregnancy, Juno visits Mark, and he reveals that he's leaving Vanessa and isn't ready to be an unfather, and implies that he's falling for Juno. Gross. Juno leaves in tears, but returns to leave a note for Vanessa saying that if she's in, Vanessa still wants to adopt the baby. After talking to her father, Juno accepts that she loves Bleecker and later finds out that he reciprocates that love. She goes into labor. Bleecker cuddles her. Vanessa meets her son, and we end with a cute guitar duet between Juno and Bleecker.
I freaking love Ellen Page and Michael Cera in this movie. I thought they did such a great job. And that little ending, even though that song gets fucking stuck in my head all the time, and I don't want to listen to it ever.
It's so good.
I don't want to listen to it ever again because it always gets stuck in my head right before I fall asleep, and then I can't sleep. I honestly think that they were the best choices for this. They just worked so well together.
I think they were a great pair, but for me, Michael Cera, this is one of my least favorite Michael Cera movies. Like for Michael Cera himself, he was just on the verge of being like nerdy and like stuttering, but like not to the levels that he comes across in other movies, and just wasn't as witty. And that was his role. And I'm not saying by any means that he did poorly at it. But as far as Michael Cera goes, especially as his career has advanced from Juno, it was just kind of a weak, quiet performance by him.
He doesn't get as much screen time, Wesley. Like, but when he does, he really shines.
I think that was the point. You know, right. Juno is the main character. Her name is literally the fucking movie. Right. And I thought Michael Cera did a great job being a supporting actor in this, where, you know, Juno was the one that was driving the story, and she is the one that's moving their relationship along. And that was what was important in the overarching themes of Juno growing up and learning about herself. It wasn't anything to do with Bleecker and what he was doing. And I think if they made Michael Cera's character more aware and like talking more and being more present on screen, I think they would have fallen into that manic pixie dream girl trope, honestly, with Juno's character, where it was more about the guy and having his dream girl versus her being an independent character.
Is this just not an example of manic pixie dream boy, though?
Could be.
Like, because we only really get to experience Bleecker through the eyes of Juno. Like, a lot of the descriptions of him and the things we learn about Bleecker are from Juno's narration or her pointing out things about him. I think a lot of it is just Juno projecting teenage love onto this boy who's her friend. Like, I fully do not believe that they stay together.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I do.
Oh, a romantic.
I mean, did any of you stay with your high school significant others?
We didn't. Not everybody got to have a significant other in high school. Okay, Emily.
I'm so sorry. Wesley, you dated someone in high school, right?
Loads.
Yay!
We're not together anymore.
That's fine. I'm not together with my person either. He actually refused to acknowledge that I was his girlfriend. So,
one of those.
No, he's a good guy. Actually, he's just awkward.
To kind of tangent off of something you had mentioned, that Juno is really the driving force in describing the characters in this movie. And there were a couple things we had already talked about, how the dialogue is tough to swallow at points, but there are a couple movie tropes that come up in this movie. And I don't know if it's maybe because I was primed with already being upset by the dialogue that I noticed a couple of them. But one of my absolute least favorite movie tropes is when Juno goes over to Bleecker's house. She describes Bleecker's mom as a hobbit, like the fat one from the Goonies.
I laughed.
My point, and the thing that I hate about that trope is, did they cast that person because they made that joke? Or did they make that joke after they cast that person?
Chicken or egg situation.
Right. And either way, it's stupid. You can't just like...
And Sean Astin isn't fat.
I heard this on a different podcast, but
he is the fat hobbit, but he's not fat.
True.
Like, of the hobbits, he's the fat one.
Right. No, Juno. This completely encapsulates Juno's character, though. Like, she's callous. She's going to speak whatever's on her mind, and she doesn't care about what people are feeling. Like, she even hurts Bleecker a ton. And, you know, she talks to Leah about, I think, her weird teacher fetish.
My point isn't that her being mean. My point is that I think it's lazy writing to make a joke about someone's appearance who you are in full control of what they look like. It's and I had heard this on another podcast, and they call it the Monopoly Man. I heard this on Harmontown, but talking about throwing a monocle and a top hat on somebody, and then to make a quick little joke. Look at the Monopoly guy. Like, that's your choice, and that's just a lazy joke, in my opinion. I hear that a lot in movies, and it just always.
She is a teenager, though. I will give it that. Like, she's and I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that the writer is writing from the perspective of a teenager. I mean, if this teenager is writing really witty jokes and is really funny, she'd probably be more of an adult, has gone and had some education on how to write and how to make jokes.
Yeah. And in terms of Bleecker's mom, like that joke didn't stand out to me as much as it's Ellen Page beating her to the top of the stairs to make it into Polly's room first. Because
where he has a car bed. Did you guys see that?
Matt, I like that you used Ellen Page instead of the character's name Juno, because I truly believe that there is no difference. Like when I see Juno, the character, I just assume that that's what Ellen Page is like in real life. And every movie that she's in after this, I see Juno, or I hear Juno in the way she talks.
Inception too.
I was just going to say, even in Inception.
Everything with her in it, Umbrella Academy, like that's not Ellen Page, that's Juno. And there are certain actors that have that sort of issue with being kind of like lost in the initial role that you know them from. Like every time I see John Hader, I think, oh, there's Napoleon Dynamite. And it's like, he's forever Napoleon Dynamite. And I actually think there's a lot in common with Napoleon Dynamite in this movie, Juno, where it's like you're thrust in these worlds that don't really feel real because they're so hyper specific.
I don't think I've ever compared Juno and Napoleon Dynamite before, but they are really seeming similar now that you put that in my brain.
Ben, I actually feel that way a lot with movies, and I think people do that because they recognize someone from something else. Like I have a tendency from different shows. I go, oh, that's Bill from Freaks and Geeks. He's in everything now. And that's just like my go-to now, because I coached a swimmer who looked exactly like him, and my sister and I would be like, oh, it's Bill. It's not Bill. But I think people have a tendency to make connections with characters, and they're like, oh, it's that so-and-so. I don't think Ellen Page is Juno in real life. I think she is definitely not. I think she has been very open with who she is. And I think that, especially talking about her other roles, I think she definitely has this weird vibe to her, and that's just who she is. But it's definitely not this sort of witty, sarcastic, callous person Juno is. That's more Diablo Cody.
I can see that, but still, when I watch Inception, I'm like, oh, look at Juno talking about science and shit. It's just like, oh, she's just kind of changed what she's talking about. Yeah.
I think that Ellen Page just is a very relaxed actor. Like I think her style just comes across as she just is the role, and she's just doing the lines. Like it doesn't seem forced. She doesn't breathe heavily like Harmony. She doesn't eyebrow act. Like it's all very. It seems like it comes natural. It comes easy to her.
But when her style is the same in every movie, all of her characters start to feel the same. Like they all are just Ellen Page being Ellen Page. And you can say that that's her acting style, but that's a detriment to her acting ability, in my opinion, where I don't think she's a very good actress because I see her and it's the same role every time she's acting.
What about the movie Hard Candy, Ben, which came 2 years before Juno?
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you that too. I haven't seen it, but I read about it.
That movie is insane compared to the Juno character. So for listeners that don't know the film Hard Candy, she's a 14-year-old vigilante who tortures a man for being a sexual predator.
That's just Juno. Juno's basically just a sequel to that movie.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's just Juno being Juno.
So would you say that she is like the opposite of a Daniel Day-Lewis?
What is that, Wesley?
It's Juno.
I mean, in terms of acting ability, I think if you were to create a spectrum, Ellen Page would be closer to the opposite end of the spectrum from Daniel Day-Lewis.
Acting? Oh, I don't know about ability.
Damn.
I see Daniel Day-Lewis, and he can lose himself into any role, and I can look at Lincoln and see Lincoln and not Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln, whereas I see Ellen Page in Umbrella Academy, and I'm like, oh, there's Ellen Page. What shenanigans is she going to get up to?
Damn, dude. I want to go on the record and say I like Ellen Page, her acting ability, and her as a person.
I mean, people agree with you. She got an Oscar nomination for this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's acting ability. I think it's acting style.
Not to completely go a different direction, but it's something that I really want to talk about. This movie inspired the Juno effect. What do you think that means?
Keeping your baby and then adopting it instead of aborting it? Question mark.
Pro Sue Chin.
All babies want to be born.
All
That's
babies
right.
want to get born.
No, actually, a bunch of people, including politicians, were really upset because they thought that Juno had like essentially taken their children and gotten them pregnant. They're like, oh, there was a huge spike in pregnancy. When actually, when you look at the data in 2008, when they actually look at the data from 2007, 2008, there was actually a decline in teen pregnancy, which I think is kind of hilarious. But this movie also put a focus on choice when it came to abortion and anti-abortion. There were a lot of reactions and criticisms from both sides. And generally, the more extreme pro-lifers were like, this movie's amazing. She doesn't choose to do the abortion. They show how the abortion clinic is super gross. Like literally someone uses the word gross, and therefore abortions are gross. And so it actually made Diablo Cody really upset because she's very pro-choice. And this she didn't think that this was actually going to get made into a movie. And it was more about that Juno got to choose what she wanted to do because that's what she wanted to do. And that's it. It didn't matter. Right. It didn't matter anything else except that she wanted to choose what she wanted. And Cody actually talked about, she got a letter from her Catholic high school thanking her. She was like, this is a quote. I was like, I hate all of you. And I'm pro-choice as a person can possibly be.
I find it hard to believe that people would watch this and just assume it's pro-life because she ends up choosing to have the baby. Like, if anything, that just emphasizes the fact that she had a choice and chose what she did. And it wasn't because of believing that all babies deserve to be born. Like, it was just, that was the choice that she felt was best for her and best for her baby.
Right. And if I just to piggyback on what you're saying, Emily, I feel like the sonogram clinic is more villainous than the the Planned Parenthood Center, because that's the lady giving the sonogram was a total bitch. I mean, it's like, oh, thank God you're not keeping it. And then, her stepmom, Bren, just goes off on her.
Yeah,
and then
that was actually based off
scene.
of a true story from Diablo Cody's friend from high school, that there was a really bitchy ultrasound technician. But, you do actually find and hear stories like that where women are just treated like shit, no matter if they're pregnant and wanting to have an abortion or not. Even when they are out, my sister even has had instances where she's been judged and asked super awful questions from people. The only experience that I've had was at Planned Parenthood, and they treated me wonderfully. And it was just to get birth control. And they were just very open and honest about things. And so this movie, makes me feel really proud that the message was showing Juno's freedom to choose what she thinks is best.
I think, though, that this is another one of those cases where no matter which side you land on, you can kind of nitpick and pick individual things to support your side using evidence from the movie. Just like how I can watch Forrest Gump and see conservative propaganda. Like, it all depends on what side you're trying to approach it from.
Sure.
Yeah. I did think, though, that so last year, Diablo Cody released just like she was really frustrated with what Georgia was going through. They had this heartbeat bill trying to pass, and it was struck down. Thankfully, it was about basically when a fetus has a heartbeat, that's when you can't have an abortion, which would be like 6 weeks. A lot of women don't know that they're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Right.
So she said that if she was asked to do a modern rewrite of Juno, it would instead feature the character grappling with the abortion laws and having to deal with that rather than the relationships. And I just think it's really interesting because not even just a few days ago, like, this is still a huge issue in our country. Not even just a few days ago, on June 29th, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a law in Louisiana that was an abortion law, and it was going to limit abortions. It was similar to another case in 2016. So it's just like this never ending idea of not letting a woman choose. And, this is me getting on my high horse. This is something I'm passionate about.
Soapbox it.
Yeah, I think this is your high horse to ride.
Sure. Women should be allowed to choose whatever they want.
Amen. Amen. And just
end.
to piggyback, like I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and like part of that law was like it would be illegal to even transport the pregnant woman across state lines to have an abortion in a legal place. So it's just fucking wild.
Hey, so I want to give my review. I really liked this movie. It's a very down-to-earth coming-of-age story with interesting and realistic characters and comedy. It's memorable and touching, and it's a true teen drama in my eyes, not just a teen dramedy. This is a perfectly pleasant parent date film, a movie you could go see with your parents and for it to just be a nice time. So I would give it a 10 out of 10, would buy it in 2007 if I saw it in a bargain bin.
Hey.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think it needs to.
All right, I have a quick review here. A fast-talking coming-of-age comedy that deals with pregnancy and pedos. It's good, but it makes me uncomfortable. 3 out of 10 unborn babies. Yeah, that's good. That's like 7 out of 10 star. That's seven stars.
What do you have against unborn babies?
Listen, don't overthink it.
Kind of ruined my review a little bit, rating at least, but I think mine's better, so I'm not gonna change it. Finally, a movie for all the cool kids with a wealth of witty dialogue with supportive family, a friend, and a dorky guy who would do sex with you and eventually become a super cool boyfriend. A very unique high school scenario with almost zero of the usual central conflict we've grown up seeing in a teenager's life. My rating is 7 out of 10 of the babies that all want to get born that Sue Chin convinced their mothers that they had fingernails.
The supporting characters of this movie make it worth watching because I found Juno, the character, to be insufferable and the script to be tonally inconsistent to downright nonsensical at points. There are some funny parts that I enjoyed, though, and J.K. Simmons and Allison Janney deserve an entire movie where they are the main characters dedicated to them being parents. 5 red vine nooses out of 10.
Wesley, we have something super fun and exciting planned for our twits for our question 1 before we step down.
We always do.
Well, now we do.
So we've got my trusty D4. I'm going to roll the die, and whoever's number gets to pick first. Well, you guys know how this goes. 3, that's Matt. So Matt, you get to pick between 6 characters. Your characters are Willy Wonka, the Terminator, Lando Calrissian, Trinity, Mary Poppins, or Zazu.
Zazu from Lion King?
Yes, the bird from Lion King.
That is the appropriate reaction to that.
Can I have that one more time?
Yeah, sure.
You reset my brain with Zazu.
And then it did it's good work. Thank you, Emily, for coming up with that one. So from the top again, Willy Wonka, Terminator, Lando Calrissian, Trinity, Mary Poppins, or Zazu.
I want Willy Wonka.
I'll take Mary Poppins.
Nice.
Good choice. I love that we still got one of each.
Yes.
Good job, Wesley.
All right, everybody. It is now time to shut your freaking gobs, and we're going to play Battle of the Honest to Bloggers. I will ask 5 questions to our pork sword contenders and let them try to convince me who is the cheese to my macaroni.
Wow.
The winner will get 1 point. I will be looking for the most Diablo Cody, and by that I mean creative and entertaining answers. After the doodle can't be undid, we will crown a home skillet victor. The punishment this week will be determined by the winner, which I'm very excited to see how that ends up. So honest to bloggers, are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah. One pork sword ready to go.
One pork sword contender. So the loser of the first question will be forced to immediately drink their weight in Sunny D. I assume you guys are both ready for that?
Let's go.
You guys both refueled with your Sunny D vodkas? There you go. Matt, I'm so proud of you being on brand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could just be orange juice. We don't know. He could be lying to us.
I'll send you a picture.
Okay. Now, Juno is a teenager, even though she was 20 when this movie came out. No, by she, I mean Ellen Page. But what I want to know is the teen life movie about the characters that we assigned before the break. So, what would a teen movie about Willy Wonka look like, Matt?
A teen movie about Willy Wonka would be all about developing the weirdo that we know and love, played by the great Gene Wilder. So let's talk about 3 things that we need to develop. His relationship to chocolate and candy, his antisocial status, and his wealth. So my teen drama would be all about Willy Wonka being an only child who wasn't allowed to have any sweets or freedom. This movie would be like a superhero origin story where we learn all about how chocolate and how song is made in such elaborate ways. We would get to see a movie like Richie Rich, except it would be all about him not trying to make friends, and it'd be about how crazy Willy was getting from not being able to talk to anyone other than the little people his parents hired to hang out with and sing with him. Oompa Loompas. His parents would both die in a plane crash at the end of Act 1. And now Willy is free to do whatever he wants. So he begins to pioneer the chocolate and candy world as a teenager living in a mansion by himself.
Wow. Matt, have you seen the more recent version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
I have not seen that one.
Oh,
No.
okay. I was curious. Have you also seen The Willoughbys on Netflix? The parents dying?
No, I
In a
haven't
plane
seen
crash?
that one. I
Okay,
was just
cool.
thinking more of like, you know, like a team, like a college football team dies in a plane crash, and now the college team is left to pick up the pieces. That's kind of what I was thinking. Just like abrupt. Here we
I also
go.
don't know if I've ever heard somebody just say Willy so casually describing Willy Wonka, and it really threw me off.
Crazy Willy. Well, you'd only be Willy. And
Yeah.
I did write down Crazy Willy.
All right, Ben. So now I want to hear a teen movie about Mary Poppins.
16-year-old Mary Poppins, a girl with a terrible home life, has always had a dream of being a babysitter, and she's so excited to get her first babysitting gig from her new neighbors. She arrives at the home dressed for the job on a rainy night with umbrella in hand to watch the 3 neighbor children. Shortly into her gig, the youngest child, 4-year-old Michael, disappears, and she must take the other children, Wendy and John, on a hunt through London to locate them. They get into all kinds of shenanigans, like crashing the car and running into a gang of street urchins, and getting transported to a faraway land where we find Michael was kidnapped by pirates. Mary must band together with a boy named Peter and his merry group of children to get back Michael before the parents return from their night out. Eventually, they save Michael from the pirates, and she gets them home in time, and decides to return to the faraway land and watch over Peter and the children.
Huh.
So you're really forcing me to figure out if I'm going to give you the same criticism I do when Matt doesn't come up with an original story.
That was actually kind of cool, though.
What do you mean?
Is that Adventures in Babysitting?
No, it was
It is,
Hook,
yeah.
you idiot.
No, it's not.
No, wasn't that?
It was
not Hook?
Adventures in Babysitting and Peter Pan. I didn't try to do Hook intentionally, but
As soon as you started talking about Peter, because at first I was like, that's Adventures in Babysitting. And then you started talking about Peter. I was like, wait, what's going on?
so Mary Poppins needs to have a reason for why she likes children and being a babysitter, and a reason for her mystical powers.
Yeah.
Well, she went to Neverland, and that's how she got the powers to kind of be the same age all the time and come to London when she's needed.
No, I
Adventures
like
in
it.
That makes a
Babysitting
lot more sense.
is one of my favorite movies of all time. So
All right, I think the adding the magic to it made it like giving a reason to why Mary Poppins has the magic versus Willy Wonka just had rich parents. Oh, just a more clever backstory. So yeah, Ben's getting that point. So
what, plane crash isn't clever enough for you?
It's already been done in the Willoughbys.
Matt, I really like the way you framed your answer though at the beginning.
I did too.
I was
three.
super jealous of that. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I
half
didn't-
point.
good job.
I didn't like any of it.
Half a point.
Do you want to start giving Matt half points?
Just pity half points.
They add
every
up,
once in a while.
baby.
Hey, that one wasn't bad. You still lost, but it wasn't terrible.
Only if we can give him negative half points, like for the next one.
Oh, God.
I'm into this game.
I like negative numbers. I'm all into that.
All right. So you both have provided a flattering and normal picture of yourself to your opponent. Excellent choices, by the way.
Wesley, that's so funny.
You can check them out on our socials. But for now, Emily is going to paint you a word picture.
Oh, a word picture. All right. Well, I'm going to start with Ben's. Ben's picture, he has cutoffs. And I don't know how to describe the facial hair on your face. But
Sexy.
This was at a party, right? You were at some...
Yeah, I shaved everything below my mouth, but everything above my mouth stayed.
That's a really good way to put it. It's hot with HAWT, right? That's what we can describe it as.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Cut off jean shorts, correct?
Cut off jean shorts and cut off t-shirt.
Joe Dirt sideburns.
And just a lovely hat.
It is really something, you guys, really something. And Matt sent us a really great picture of him with a new fan of his in New York, right, Matt?
Yeah, so
he's got a real weird face going on and kind of squinting a little weird with a backwards hat with his hair going out the top of it. And there was a little bit of discussion of who this new fan was, if he was a real person or not.
I mean, so I did this thing where I was taking selfies with mannequins and saying, "Oh, a new fan. This is wonderful." And Ben messages us like, "Hey, can I make fun of your friend?" And Wesley's like, ... What are you talking about? Are you talking about the mannequin?
It's okay.
I legitimately thought it was a real person, and I wanted to make fun of that person.
I did too. I thought it was a real person.
But then we ended up making fun of you.
Mm-hmm.
We went on for like 10 or 15 minutes going like, "You're joking, right? Because you're a funny guy and this is just one of your jokes." And Ben was not joking. And we were like, well, I guess we're going to have to wait for Emily to chime into this conversation to see how crazy you are. And sure enough, we are divided 50-50.
We have crazy people on this podcast for sure. But either way, Ben has a picture of himself wearing cutoff jean shorts at a party with some weird facial hair. Matt has a picture with his newest mannequin fan.
Perfect.
A fanikin.
Hey.
So you can check those out. They should already be posted to our social media. But what I want you two to do right now is to write an ad in a penny saver for your opponent with that picture, advertising them as adoptive parents. And we're starting with Ben.
What up, bitches? My name's Matt, and I want your baby. Baby! I currently live in an old warehouse with 37 people/mannequins, and with all those helpers around, you can bet your child will be given the utmost attention and love. Your baby, just like my mannequins, will be adorned in the finest t-shirts from the Hard Rock cafes I have visited. So, just Boston, because it's the only one I've been to. Your baby will always wear Boston Hard Rock Cafe shirts. And I have enough so that they never need to wear the same one twice. It is said that it takes a whole village to raise a child, and this village is full of talented and broadly skilled individuals who will teach your child to be well-rounded. Can you be sure that this village won't sacrifice your baby in an attempt to bring one of my mannequins to life? To that I say, there are no guarantees in life. Also, quick plug, I know that you're pregnant. You're in a very vulnerable state mentally and emotionally, and if you need a shoulder to cry on or other special attention, wink, there are 76 shoulders available to you and one mostly working penis, baby! Please help me realize my dream of being a parent and or having one of my mannequins become real. Boy babies only, because gross.
Wow.
So is this supposed to be Matt?
That's obviously Matt. What do you mean?
Wow.
Just listen to the way he talks.
Wow.
Baby!
I'm just going to politely ask for a baby, and I should win this question, right?
Wait, Matt, I don't think you actually said baby all episode, and this is a movie about a baby.
I know. I'm trying to grow as a person, just like Juno.
drinking the right drinks and
Having
not saying
Tic
baby.
Tacs.
Oh, the Tic Tacs. Such a good move. Half point for the Tic Tacs alone. All right. Let's hear your post in the penny saver, Matt.
Well, I went a different direction. Hello, my name is Benjamin, and I am looking to adopt one little boy or girl to be paired up with my only child. I've read that in many parenting books that children can get lonely when they're by themselves, and I can no longer bear children since my big accident at work. I am a huge Vikings fan, and if that bothers you, do not apply. Your child will be raised in purple and gold and be taught from birth to love the Vikings and hate whoever the head coach is. They will attend every home game with their dad and sister until we all pass away from eating one too many hot dogs or taking a t-shirt cannon to the face. Baby!
There it is.
Juno definitely has her own voice, clipping her way through casual conversations and using a rather uncommon vault of references. So, I want you to rewrite the lyrics of a famous song as if it were written by Juno.
Well, I'm so excited to find out which songs you picked.
Me too, because I haven't looked at them yet, and I know that Matt's not happy. So,
So let me go first, and let me just say I struggled greatly with this, and I tried for over an hour. So let me just preface that with so I chose "Hit Me Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears, and it goes, "Oh baby, baby, they want to be born. That something wasn't right here. Oh baby, baby, I shouldn't have let you go." And that's as far as I got, which isn't even a Juno quote. It's a Sue Chin quote. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how I lost this question.
I didn't catch any lines from Juno herself.
Yeah.
There weren't any.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much nailing this question.
Negative half point for Matt.
I'll give him a half point for the beautiful vocal notes.
Nah, that negates it to 0 points.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, Ben.
So mine's not going to be to the melody of the song, and I want people to try to guess what song I'm doing. I cast my dreams to the depths of the water hole, but it's one of those don't ask, don't tell sitches, and I faux shiz thought about you as it plunged, and now I'm cuckoo for your Cocoa Puffs. Phone Satan because I'm looking to barter, buffalo nickels for your sweet tic-tac breath. I wasn't playing Sherlock, but I think you're my Watson, honest to blog. I know we just got acquainted, and I'm probably living La Vida Loca, but I'm going to splank you with these digis and let's gab on my hamburger phone. My lady boner keeps popping when I see you in my mind's eye, but still, splat these digis onto your mobile and let's get auditory.
Do I know this song?
I know the answer, and I wouldn't guess this song.
Like I said, it's definitely not to the melody.
Well, you definitely had some. I got nothing. That was I don't know what song it is, but that was perfect.
No,
like
I have no
that
idea.
is
It was
exactly
a
what I
perfect
wanted.
Juno song, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Matt,
Call
did
Me
you-
Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh. Next question. So this is going to be our debate style question tonight, where you will not only have to answer the prompt, but then you also have to defend against your opponent. So Juno is set in somewhere near us, possibly in Minnesota. Now, to me, Minnesota seemed like a rather distant detail in this movie, and other than snow and a few city references. But what I would like you guys to debate over is what movie is the most accurate representation of Minnesota? I think you got a lot to choose from, so I'm excited to see your answers. So, Ben?
Drop Dead Gorgeous is the most accurate representation of what Minnesota's like. The movie does a great job of nailing the Minnesota accent that's typically associated with our residents, but also does an amazing job of portraying the smaller idiosyncrasies that we, as Minnesotans, are known for. Lutefisk, Lutherans clashing with Catholics, passive aggression, the small town feel where everyone knows each other, Jell-O salads and hot dishes, the excitement of getting to stay in a hotel near the cities, small towns disliking people from the cities, bars for dessert, farming, Amy Adams looking fine as hell, all distinctly Minnesotan. It also was filmed entirely in Minnesota and utilizes many of our most famous Old Town looks by filming in Jordan, Waconia, and Chaska. An obligatory mention of the Mall of America is also included. This movie is Minnesota, and if I ever leave, which I won't, I will watch it when I get homesick.
Matt? Let's see how much your Minnesota memory is still in there after being removed for so long.
When you think of Minnesota, who's the most famous person you can think of from the state? The answer is Prince. So I chose Purple Rain, which is a film that stars Prince in his acting debut as the Kid, a character played on himself. Purple Rain was developed to show Prince's talents, and it was a film that contains several concert sequences, most of which take place in Minnesota's own legendary nightclub, First Ave. First Ave was originally a bus depot, opened in 1937, and became a music venue in 1970. He performed Purple Rain there for the very first time, and the club is still there today on the corner of 1st and 7th. Purple Rain is famous for its Oscar-winning, award-winning original soundtrack, which includes When Doves Cry and Let's Go Crazy, as well as all of the principal photography taking place entirely in Minneapolis. The film features local landmarks such as First Avenue, that music venue I just talked about, the IDS Tower, the tallest building in Minneapolis, home of Target Corp, and Lake Minnetonka, made famous to our generation by Dave Chappelle's sketch show. This movie honors Minnesota by lifting up a Minnesota legend and where he got his start in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, to counter some of Ben's points, this movie took place in a fictional town called Mount Rose, which is an anagram of Rosemont. And that Mall of America scene wasn't even at Mall of America because there's a Target in the background and there's no Target at Mall of America. And Kirstie Alley isn't even from Minnesota. She was born in Kansas.
And time.
All right, Ben.
Purple Rain is mostly about music and not Minnesota. This could have been set in any big city in the country, and it would have required very few changes to make it work. I appreciate that Prince wanted it done in Minnesota, and I know how much he loved it here, but it did not provide a broad sense of what life in Minnesota is like. The fact that Minnesota is known for Prince is not indicative of Minnesota, since Prince oozes cool and sex, and Minnesota absolutely does not, don't you know? Now, Mount Rose, I don't know why they chose to not just call it Rosemont, since they use every other city in Minnesota during the pageant scene. But I don't think that hurts the fact that this is still very clearly Minnesota. And Kirstie Alley, none of those actors are from Minnesota. Like, you don't have, Kirsten Dunst is not from here, but she nails the accent. And honestly, they used Fargo to come up with the accents. And I think Fargo is probably the best representation of our accent.
I just want to go on record and say, I've never talked like that. I don't feel like that is an accurate representation of a Minnesota accent. It's more Canadian. And I've never gone to a potluck where I've eaten lutefisk before. Sure, that's a very rural Minnesota thing, but I think of Prince, I think of music, I think of Minneapolis when I think of Minnesota.
Just to be clear, because the movie's a comedy, the lutefisk was served as school lunch, which is even funnier than being at a hot dish party.
Wow. I think my favorite quote of today was, Prince does ooze cool and sex, Minnesota doesn't.
Don't you know?
Don't you know?
Don't you know?
You gotta add that stinger to it. So on to everyone's favorite question. Question 5. You're going to pitch a reboot, prequel, or sequel for Juno. And this week, I would also like you to have a band whose sound will curate the tone of the movie and the soundtrack. Matt, let's hear your movie.
So what do we want more of from this movie? We have a great arc on all of the characters except one that left us wanting so much more from her. All babies want to be born. And I want to give birth to this movie. So in Juno, Soo Chin is an underdeveloped character who we only assume is this pro-life nerd who likes to study and is your stereotypical nerd. Wrong. Soo Chin is just like the rest of us, just trying to make her parents happy by studying, trying to make friends, and trying to find love. This would be a comedy reboot featuring Soo Chin that takes place all in one day, that covers her waking up from a slumber party with her best friend, to a quick protest in front of Planned Parenthood, to a big party at night where she needs to find and score some alcohol to impress and win over Steve Renaduzio, the jock who secretly likes dorky girls but is too afraid to admit it. This is a story of two inseparable friends as they navigate the last weeks of high school and are invited to a gigantic house party. Together, they spend a long day trying to score alcohol to supply the party, and by the end, Soo Chin falls in love with Steve, has unprotected sex, and knows that she will soon be faced with her own decision to have her baby or not. It's basically super bad, but it passes the Bechdel test. The next morning, she has a heart-to-heart with her mother and learns all about Plan B, and her views about pregnancy are reformed, and she grows as a person. My movie title, I'm torn between these two. Super Suchin or Born Again. It's my movie.
Did you have a band?
Oh, yeah. And the band is the Sex Bombs. And that's the tone. I'm sorry
from
from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Sorry to shoehorn that in, guys. But that would be the tone of the music.
Oh, shoehorn. All right, Ben.
On the last day of high school, Paulie decides to break up with Juno since he'll be attending Minnesota Duluth and Juno will be attending Minnesota State Mankato.
Oh,
After
my God.
sulking for most of the summer, Juno heads off to college, single and looking for a quirky good boy to fall in love with.
Oh my God.
On her first day, she meets a photography major who has a love of colors but an allergy to the color red, ironically. They quickly fall in love with one another, she loving his kind spirit, his quick-wittedness, and his massive collection of large pieces of furniture made of wood that he constantly makes his friends move into his new residences. He loving the way she talks with her exclamatory strings of words never before heard and constant sarcasm, her love of quirky bands and going to concerts, and her insistence on never wearing a condom because, like, what are the odds she gets pregnant again? Well, she gets pregnant again, and this time she wants to keep it because she's so in love with him. Only tragedy strikes when she has a miscarriage. Fearing that she will lose the love of her life, she pretends to be pregnant in the hopes that she can get pregnant again before her guy finds out. After being pregnant for 19 months, the guy begins to question when the baby will finally get here. She confesses to him that she has been faking her pregnancy for a while now, and the guy is absolutely dumbfounded at this realization. They eventually reconcile and Juno gets pregnant again, their baby is born, and they live happily ever after. The movie will be set entirely to the music of Lorde. Lorde is basically the Juno of the music world with her stream of conscious lyrics that don't really make much sense to anyone who's attempting to listen, just like Juno's dialogue. The title of my movie is Too Juno, Too Pregnant.
I feel personally attacked.
You shouldn't feel
I said such
personally
nice
attacked.
things about you.
What? Just because you went to Mankato State and you're a photography major?
And you
I
love
feel
colors
personally
and an
attacked.
allergy to red.
Wesley, how long can women be pregnant for?
At least a day. I know that.
That's the correct answer.
No, I feel personally attacked not because it was mean, but because you forced me into living this experience and then made the person I love have a miscarriage. And then made me stupid.
And you like Lorde.
I do love Lorde. All right, boys, how you feeling about that massive fight?
The only question I wanted to win was number 4, the movie.
Well, you should have
from
wanted
Minnesota.
to win all of them. That's probably why you haven't won one of these yet.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know where you're like, oh, I like my answer? That's when I was like, yeah, I like my answer. But I felt like I didn't do it justice in the debate.
Sure.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Now, is that the Sunny D and vodka
Definitely
talking?
the alcohol talking.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Wesley, recap us for number 1.
So number 1, we had the teen stories of Willy Wonka and Mary Poppins. And we scored that one for Ben for getting that good magical backstory in there that we all needed. Question 2 was using the photos that you provided for each other to create a penny saver ad for an adoptive parent. Now, unfortunately, I think that the photo that Matt gave you didn't offer as much to build a backstory off of versus that ridiculous shave and cut off pants and like there was just a lot more fuel for Matt to go off of.
So punish him for it. That's his fault, not mine.
No, I think it's his strategy. He gave you less to work with.
There was a mannequin in my photo.
Yeah, I know.
I don't understand. I don't.
So I think Ben's yours was a little too extreme, and what really tipped the scale for me was,
though.
Yeah, they were both great. But I think Matt kind of captured Ben's voice a little bit better. And
That too. Yeah.
yeah, I loved the.
Oh, baby! That was all about Matt's voice.
It started off with a very kind of like well-spoken, and knowing what the picture looks like, I was like, that's kind of like, that's how you would want to come across even with that picture in a penny saver
Yeah.
ad. So
That's so true.
Yeah,
Well
so
done,
Matt's
Matt.
getting that point.
Yeah.
I don't think we touched on he's wearing a Viking shirt as well with cut off sleeves,
Yeah, I forgot to mention it's a purple Viking shirt.
which was the majority of what I wrote.
Question 3 was to rewrite the lyrics to a famous song as if it were written by Juno, and Matt just didn't even do it. So
Ben, you won.
Ben's getting that one. To be fair, Matt, like I know you were struggling with this one anyway.
Mhm.
Ben's answer would have been very difficult to beat.
That's true. Ben, your answer was really, really good.
I think it is exactly what I was imagining when I saw this question. So Ben is getting question 3. Question 4 is definitely the toughest one of the battle today. I think we both agree that, Matt, your answer of Purple Rain might be the right answer, but I think you kind of went about it in the wrong way. And you started off by saying the most famous person in the state, and that kind of formed the rest of your answer to be not about the state and more about the person. And then when you went on to describe things like First Avenue and the history of First Avenue, like I'm pretty sure First Avenue being a bus depot and opening in 1937 doesn't play a part in Purple Rain at all. So good facts, but like that doesn't make it a Minnesota movie. That's a thing about Minnesota that you learned because of something that was in the movie, not necessarily learning about it. If you go back and look at Ben's answer, like the thing that really sold it for me right up top was the long list of the things that are Minnesotan that show up in the movie. Lutefisk, Lutherans clashing with Catholics, passive aggressiveness, small towns knowing each other, a couple more. I don't need to say the whole thing, but my favorite part was definitely small towns dislike for other people from other cities. That feels so Minnesotan to me.
Excited to stay in hotels. I even liked it, Ben. Good job.
So Ben is getting that one.
And if you haven't seen Drop Dead Gorgeous, you really need to see it.
I think Matt will be seeing it shortly.
It should be
We'll see about that.
double feature with what's the babysitter one?
I'm still in it. I could
Adventures in
win the last
Babysitting?
two. I could win the last two,
There's
maybe.
one more.
There's
We're on
only one
question
more,
5.
Matt.
No shit. I've been drinking a lot of Sunny D and vodka.
Is that why the sunglasses have appeared again?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too Sunny D over there.
Oh, snap.
All right. This was an interesting one because Ben forced my hand into being personally attached. So it feels uncomfortable. Matt, so I did love a couple things. I Want to Give Birth to This movie made me laugh pretty good. The fact that it's impressing the random character Steve Randazzo is a great twist. And where it fell apart for us was that I think you used Superbad too much as a crutch instead of being confident with your own story. That I think if you had not taken so many like direct beats from Superbad and done something parallel, like the heart of this movie was pretty good.
Yeah.
It just
Especially that end. You're right, Wesley. The heart of the movie was there, but you were using another movie's humor to guide the rest of it.
like I said, this was very funny. I had to sit back. I couldn't take notes while you were reading your answer, Ben. I already explained it kind of right immediately afterwards. My favorite part was constantly making his friends move into his new residences, because for the listeners, I think I've lived in 24 different houses in my life. And
what the fuck?
yeah, most of those came post college and post my parents moving back to Ohio. So Ben, mostly since Matt picked the right time to move away, because Ben got left behind to help me move everything many times.
It seems like all of his shit is made of oak too. Like it's super fucking heavy.
Yeah, got a couple like sleepaway couches and
Right.
yeah. Trying to
Your
downsize though.
predictive text says pizza and beer.
All right, so yeah, Ben's getting that one too, which brings us to a grand total of Ben 4, Matt 1. A very hard fought 1.
And a half.
Yeah, and a half.
Yeah, what in a
I don't
half?
remember where that came from, but we'll say that.
It came from Willy Wonka.
So, as we said in the beginning, this week we are going to let Ben choose the penalty. Now, we tossed around quite a few ideas for the penalty, which is why we're letting it be up to Ben. So I'm curious to see what he's going to go with.
I'll live tweet.
No, let me say them first.
Okay,
you may want one of the other ones. You let me post my ad for your adoption desire on Craigslist along with your picture. You live tweet Drop Dead Gorgeous, or you get someone pregnant, and it can't be Shelby.
Right.
So your choice. Which one do you want?
Right, and we decided donating sperm to Goodwill isn't allowed.
By Goodwill's rules, not Matt's.
Yeah, I'll live tweet Drop Dead Gorgeous.
You're in for a treat. It's quite enjoyable.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Very,
I'll have
very
to just get over the fact Christy
incorrect.
Alley isn't from Minnesota. She's from Wichita, Kansas.
None of them
where
are.
I was born.
Hey, so the next 3 weeks are going to be kind of fun, aren't they?
Coming up, we have something special where we're going to have a Battle of the Twits tournament, starting with Ben and Wesley doing the Heartbreak Kid, and then me and Emily will be doing Live Free or Die Hard, and then the championship of Alvin and the Chipmunks. So that'll be a fun little tournament where hopefully one of us can knock Ben off of his goddamn throne. So thank you guys for listening, and tune in to that coming up. So goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Mark.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.